Good evening. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Art Institute of Chicago. I'm Larry Antonatis, president of the Society for Contemporary Art. Established in 1940 as a nonprofit organization, the Society for Contemporary Art supports the Art Institute of Chicago by engaging the community in a dialogue about the art of our time and acquiring works that enrich the museum's collection. The SCA is about community, the SCA is about dialogue, the SCA is about the art of our time, and most of all, the SCA is about the Art Institute of Chicago. Thank you for being here with the SCA tonight. We are excited to kick off our fall 2024 programming with Diamond Stingily as our first artist speaker. Before we begin tonight's program, I would like to highlight a few upcoming SCA events. I'll begin with member programs. On Tuesday, October 8th, our members are invited to Hans Goodrich Gallery to view Does Anyone Still Wear a Hat?, a group exhibition of emerging international artists. On Thursday, October 10, patron and benefactor level members will enjoy a private tour of Nancy Holt, Seeing in the Round, a special installation on the Bloom Family Terrace. The tour will be led by Caitlin Haskell, the Art Institute's Senior Curator of Modern and Contemporary Art, who will be joined by Lisa Lefouve, Executive Director of the Holt-Smithson Foundation. A private reception will follow. In addition, please mark your calendars for public programming and two speakers here in Fullerton Hall. Tishan Hu, Chinese-American artist known for his exploration of the intersection between technology, the human body, and architecture, will speak on Wednesday, October 23rd. Adriano Pedrosa, Artistic Director of the Musée d'Art de Sao Paulo, and curator of the 2024 Venice Biennale, will speak on Monday, November 4th. The Society for Contemporary Art is a membership-supported organization, and we are open to everyone. We have a range of membership support levels, including reduced-fee artist and junior memberships, our standard friend membership, and our important sponsor, patron, and benefactor membership. All of these are available on our website. We sincerely hope you will join us as members of the Society for Contemporary Art. Now, I would like to invite SCA Programming Committee Chair Jessica Diamond to introduce our special guests, Diamond Stingily and Giampaolo Bianconi.
Thank you, Larry, and welcome to all of you for joining us tonight for the first SCA Artist Lecture of the season. It is with great pleasure that I introduce our guest speaker tonight, Diamond Stingily. Diamond is a multidisciplinary artist whose work traverses sculpture, installation, video, and poetry, often addressing themes of identity, memory, trauma, and personal history. Drawing inspiration from her own experiences growing up in Chicago, Diamond explores the complexities of race, gender, and power through the deeply evocative works that blend everyday objects with potent symbolism. Some of Diamond's notable accomplishments, including exhibitions at prominent institutions such as the New Museum in New York, the Institute of Contemporary Art in Miami, MoMA PS1, her acclaimed solo shows include Wall Sits and Entryways, have garnered attention for their raw, visceral exploration of themes such as safety, home, and resilience. In addition to her visual art practice, Diamond is also a published poet, using her words to further delve into the inner workings of memory and identity. Joining Diamond in the conversation is Dittmer Associate Curator for Contemporary Art, Giampaolo Bianconi. Welcome, Diamond and Giampaolo, and thank you both for sharing your insights with us tonight.
Thanks, Jessica and Larry, and thanks everyone for being here tonight, and thanks, Diamond. So it's kind of like a little bit of a homecoming, maybe.
Yeah, it feels that way a little bit. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. So thank you all for coming.
Yeah. I wonder if we maybe want to start by talking about your most recent show at 52 Walker in New York. show had a memorable title. Do you want to explain maybe what the title was and where it came from?
The title was Orgasms Happened Here. It was based off of a sticky note that now I'm starting to get the story mixed up, but I think my brother, actually, I think I found it. One of us found a note and pointed it out to the other person because we just thought it was a really bizarre note to leave behind in a closet space. And it stuck with me. I thought it was really bizarre. I wish I would have kept the sticky note, but I didn't think that it would be an art show 20 years later. But I thought about that imagery a lot of just a closet space since then, and turned this idea or this memory into a show.
And in the show, I mean, I think of you primarily in your artistic practice as a sculptor. And in the show, you did something that I thought was kind of interesting, which was instead of, sculpting always outwardly into space, you sculpted inwardly into the walls in a way, mm-hmm. by creating these closet spaces in the gallery. Would you talk a little bit about that decision or what went into that?
At first, I think both me and Ebony Hayes of 52 Walker were like, we'll make freestanding closets. And I had this idea of people going around the closets and being able to like see the installation or the sculpture piece. But I like the idea more of playing with the space and letting it breathe. I think other artists that installed in that space before me, they did a great job of filling the space up. I think it can be a challenging space to work with. And I think I wanted to challenge myself as to letting each sculpture have room to breathe and, giving it space.
It's interesting also because the different spaces were filled in a way with different objects. How do you find your objects? Do you seek them out specifically because you have something in mind, or do you collect things over time and kind of wait for them to have a use in your work?
Oh, I'm not a collector because I don't like things like just like sitting around. But I do sketch a lot, and it's more so almost like stick figures or something. I'm not that good at drawing at all, but I'll do like a stick figure and then more so write like a paragraph or two next to it as to what this idea is and what I want. And then when I have the opportunity to do a show, I kind of just want to execute like that idea. So when Ebony approached me for Orgasms Happen Here at 52 Walker, I kind of already knew that's what I wanted to do. I think it's really important for me to look at the space first, like really see it, because sometimes too, if someone gives me like a layout of a space, I can't go off of that. I can't go off of numbers like that. I have to really like see the space. And that's what helped that idea come about too. It's like seeing the space and actually seeing like what I could work with first. Yeah, I don't collect.
Yeah. There's you can see one of the closets on the screen now. A couple of them had bricks in them, but a lot of them had more objects related to your interest in domestic spaces and specifically suburbia. Is that's like a kind of place or area that you've been interested in lately?
Yeah, both the suburbs and the city. I spent a lot of time between the two, and I'm very fascinated with like layouts. We talked about that over the phone. Like I really like layouts. I like driving actually. I'm a big fan of being like a passenger princess, and I like to Yeah, I like to drive from the city to the suburbs because also too, I think a lot of suburbs, at least the ones that I'm familiar with, almost have like this rural, it's like, it's country too. It's not just like this stereotypical idea of what a suburbs is on TV. I'm more fascinated with like that type of suburbs. Like when me and my family first moved to like Romeoville, Illinois, it was much different than what it is now. But there was some streets like, that still didn't have sidewalks. So like there was still like some barns and things like that that I could see. Or like before they finished the subdivision, it was like cornfields. So I'm interested in those like contrasting like the city life versus like almost suburban, like rural living, yeah.
And I feel like a lot of your work, it involves, ready-made objects, but they're imbued with a very, I don't know if it's always personal, but a kind of poetic history or story in them. Do you think of the sculptures as telling stories, or is that off the mark?
Yeah, sometimes they do. I think so because because I was a poet before I started making, or I considered myself a poet before I started making art, like objects. So for a while, that's what it was. It was more like a journal entry or like a poem that I wrote, and then I would try to make it into like a sculpture. Some of my earlier work is based off of poetry, not necessarily the poetry that I wrote, but other poets too. Like now I can't name a poet since there's a spotlight on me. But yeah, it was based off of other poets. A lot of my art too is just based off of, we talked about it, mundaneness, just like being bored and coming up with an idea, with a story for yourself.
Yeah, can you say a little more about your interest in boredom?
My interest in boredom?
Yeah.
Sometimes there's not much going on. I think maybe based on how social media works or whatever, we have this idea that you got to be busy all the time. You got to be moving. You got to be doing things. But I don't think that's how I create a lot of my art. It's a lot of nothingness involved between the action of doing, and I'm okay with that. Yeah, I think stillness is important to reflect on things and figure out what you want to do, what you want to create. I sometimes don't like. I think it's totally okay to create for the sake of creating. That's so important. But I also think it's okay to, sit with your boredom and just be content with the mundaneness of what your life is. I think I'm overstimulated actually sometimes, so it's okay to just be still and be bored.
Do you do certain things to cultivate that as a part of your practice, you feel like?
Boredom?
Yeah. Or stillness, if that's better.
I like puzzles and I do like crosswords and stuff. I think also too, I think just walking around my neighborhood, walking around the city, interacting with strangers, it's all a part of that mundane. Like, I don't necessarily have to be having some high accomplishment to be existing in the world. It's totally fine just to, be bored.
I agree. I wanted to ask you, because aside from the found objects and the ready-mades, another thing that you do a lot in your work are make casts of, like, body part casts. How did you first start making those?
That came about because of a BBC documentary I was watching about death mask. And then I was thinking more and more about it, and I think when I first started as an artist, I was like in my mid-20s, and I think each time I think about death, there's a change about to happen in my personal life. There's a change coming, and I feel like I made that death mask when I was turning, I think, 30. And I was just really fascinated with this idea of aging and maybe not necessarily holding on to youth or accepting the fact that I'm getting older. I have no problem getting older, but I'm just saying, like, I think society-wise, I was thinking a lot about what it's like to be like an aging woman. And it was based off of this artist made a video piece about how artists need to be pretty, and I was thinking a lot about, it was from the 70s. I was thinking a lot about that too, this idea of like, yeah, everyone's aging, but this idea of like getting older and being like an artist and what that meant for me, and yeah, growing up, changing.
Maybe that's we can zoom out a little bit, and maybe I can ask, how did you come to art making to begin with?
Facebook. Because I think if it wasn't for me posting on Facebook a lot of things, like, not just it wasn't Facebook, I do think I have personality, but I was posting a lot of my old journals from when I was in grade school, elementary school, like just random journals instead. Because, Facebook used to, I don't have Facebook no more, but I know it used to say, like, how are you feeling? Or like, what was it called? Not a caption, but it was something.
Status?
Status, thank you. It was like you post your status, and I would just post a journal entry from when I was like 8 or 9, and it would be something silly. And I remember that's how I ended up, Jade, Puppies, was like, you should do a show, just based on the journal entries. And so that's what happened. It started because of me posting on Facebook, doing readings, honestly just being around and without realizing it, networking, just talking to people and things like that. I didn't have any intentions on becoming like the artist that I am now. And I remember Jade was like, we have the gallery, Ed Gallery, me and Forrest, you should do a show. And it kind of snowballed from there, because I did a window display at Ed Gallery, and then I did a show at Queer Thoughts, like one of their first shows in New York. And then Mike from Ramekin Crucible, saw it, and then I did a show there. So that's how it kind of that's how I got into art. People were asking me to do things, and I took those opportunities.
Because, and at the time, as I understand it, when you were in Chicago before, you were doing poetry and reading and also performance?
Yeah, I was mainly someone that if my friends were looking for an actress or something and no one else would say yes, I would be that girl that would be like, I'll do it, yeah. And so, yeah.
And what did you end up doing through that?
What, performance-wise?
Yeah, like acting-wise, yeah.
Well, before Martine Sims' Notes on Gesture, I don't know, I was a clown once.
Like for a party?
Marcel Akala used to do performances in Chicago about clowns, and he would get his friends to dress up as clowns. I was a sad clown. I did that. Just a bunch of stuff. I can't even, some of the stuff you'd be like, no one needs to know. Yeah. But yeah,
but then you were in Notes on, you did this collaboration with Martine, Notes on Gesture.
Mm-hmm. And she did another video back when I worked at American Apparel. She had me talking about my job. Because this is at a time, American Apparel was kind of like it was going like down. And they built basically a cage for backstock in the basement at the Wicker Park store. And that's where I worked. I worked in the cage. And she used some of the clippings of me talking about working backstock in this cage for a video as well. I forget the title of it, but yeah, that was funny.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the baseball bats? They recur in a lot of different sculptures of yours. There was one, they were in a closet at the 52 Walker show. They show up kind of leaning on doors and against armchairs. Where does the baseball bat come from as a motif, I guess?
I grew up around baseballs, like baseball bats, because my family played baseball, but also too they were just around. And I think that's actually a very Chicagoan thing, just for someone to randomly have a bat, like in their car or next to their bed or like by the door. It really is.
I'm not from here. I wouldn't know. Yeah.
I really do think that's a Chicagoan thing. I've never seen it anywhere else, but people randomly carry baseball bats here. I think it's true. And I think that's where I got it from. It started, my grandma Estelle, she keeps a bat next to her door, and I always thought that was cool. I didn't really pay too much attention to why. She kept a bat by her bed. My mother kept a bat by her bed. My friend Mandy has a bat next to her nightstand. Like, people just have bats. I think my brother in the audience has a bat. Like, people just have bats around. And I think it's a strong symbol. It sticks out to me. It's just a symbol I think it represents a lot of things, someone carrying a bat on them. I think it's a strong symbol, though.
Yeah.
You're from Boston, right? But I was about to say, Boston seems like a city that people would carry bats.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I can see it. But how did you make the decision to put it in your work? I mean, it's interesting to me. Like, I don't make art, so I always wonder, like, what, you have something that's around you, you have something you see, and then making that decision to make that a part of an artwork seems like it's like another leap somehow.
I don't think it was necessarily a conscious decision. I just thought it looked beautiful. Really, really, I did. I think some of the work that I make, I can't articulate why I did it the way I did it. And even there's some artworks that I've made that I can come up with some reasonings and like some explanations, but all in all, I really don't know why I made it. It's just beautiful to me. I think that's the bat too. I just grew up around people that carried bats, and they were really strong people.
And they are beautiful objects, and in the sculpture, they're frequently balanced or leaning. They're strong, and there's also a sense of fragility to how you position them a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely symbolic for me, but I can't really articulate it. But I do like this idea of bats, and it's very... it's maybe even like a sign of resistance to carry a bat. Like, you're tough, yeah.
It's also part of a larger. There are a lot of things related to athletics that come up in your sculptures and installations. The previous show you had in New York before Orgasms happened here was kind of structured in some way around the long jump.
The show at Green Neftali.
Yeah.
The title of that show was, what was the title? Yes, it was my mother's name, Sand.
Yeah.
It was named after my mother.
Yeah. But there was a kind of central, you can see it sort of a little bit on the screen right now, sort of long jump pit or something, yeah.
I was thinking a lot about ascending. This is at a time where this show was created after my mother died in 2021, and then 2 months later, my grandmother, she died as well. And right after my grandmother died, I thought of the clever idea to get foot surgery, and I couldn't walk for a good 2.5 months. And I think this show is created out of, I had a feeling of hope, even though I felt hopeless at that time. And I was thinking a lot about ascending. And my mother's name is Sandra, but everyone called her Sand. And in a way, I wanted the show to be like an ode to her. And I think to my grandmother as well, because the symbolism and the material sand, I was thinking a lot about how it can be heavy or light, and this idea of long jumping is almost as if you're trying to fly. And I thought a lot about, ascending. Yeah.
And then I was also thinking about, there's another image that kind of pops up every now and then of these little bottles of brightly colored drinks in a basket or in a can or something. It's an earlier work, I think.
That was for the Miami show, Life in My Pocket. And I more so, I think, created that piece out of this idea that I think a lot of times when people do talk about my work, sometimes they talk about violence. And I think I just made a piece out of that piece, kind of out of protest of that idea. Like, there's a lot of joy in my work as well. And I think if you look at those juice bottles, you cannot say that there's violence in these juice boxes or anything. I just wanted to make a piece about, I wanted to make a piece about joy.
I feel like there is a lot of joy in your work, but I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit more about that and the importance of that and where you see it kind of coming out in your work.
Well, I don't think all art has to be created out of suffering. So yeah. Did I answer the question or no? I'm sorry. I think I answered it.
Yeah.
No? Sorry.
I mean, yeah, I think, yeah. Yeah. But do you feel like you actively try to make work that's not coming out of suffering?
No. I just like making art.
Yeah.
It's expressive for me because it does come out almost like it feels like a poem for me. And whatever I need to say, I just want to say it, whether it's about joy or suffering or yearning or lust, whatever emotion. I don't really like to interpret my art. I really like to hear what other people have to say about it. Because sometimes, like I said earlier, I don't know why I made the piece, and then someone will be like, oh, like, this reminds me of my grandma's house. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it.
Yeah. I do think that's something that's very interesting about your work, is that it has these particular objects or materials or symbols, but they're very open-ended. I feel like they're relatable to lots of different kinds of people, because you can kind of think about a house or a space or a sport or a closet or whatever, and you kind of bring your life to it in a way.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said it's open-ended. That's good, because I'm open to interpretation, and I'm open to there being more than one answer. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about this piece for a minute?
Okay. I made that piece because I actually like how the closets are. I made that piece because I want to expand on it actually one day. And I was thinking a lot about clearance sales and things like that, things going out of business and shutting down. And to be real, sometimes I do think about death a lot. So sometimes when I get in a rut or I get stuck, this idea of death like pops in the back of my head where it's like, you gotta move, like do something. Not necessarily something great or grand. It could even be like, go get the coffee, like, or something really simple. And I was just thinking like of like a sign, like everything must go, but it's all like the anxieties that I have. And I do think the idea of death sometimes makes me anxious, and it's loud. So that's why I like made this piece. I was thinking a lot about clearance sales. I shop a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of art, in a very fundamental way, comes out of a contention with the anxiety around mortality.
Yeah, or even like the mortality of someone's career. It's not necessarily like this idea of my body physically not being here, but there's all types of deaths happening all
What do
the
you mean?
time.
What do you mean by that?
What?
Mortality of a career.
Just in general, I think sometimes when you have a career that's like, that it relies heavily on the public or people liking your art, it could end. Yeah.
Where do you primarily work?
Right now, I work at my house.
Do you have a studio practice?
I do. I wake up and
But it's at home?
yeah, I was about to give y'all my whole routine. That's why I was like, let me stop. But I usually, I try to make it fun for myself. And I think if I get in a too heavy of a routine, like you wake up and then you'll make art for 3 hours and then you'll do this and then I can't work like that, but I do have a routine, yeah. Because once I'm in the zone of doing something, I'm very tunnel vision. That's all I want to do. So that's kind of like the routine, the mundaneness, the sitting around, the doing other things, the other activities of life. And then it's almost as if like the light bulb goes off or like the lightning strikes and I'm like, all right, I have this idea and I'm ready to like execute it and make it happen. And that's fun for me. My friend Monica said this, not everyone's idea of fun looks fun. So I think me sitting at a desk and sketching and drawing doodles and stuff like that, that might look crazy to somebody that isn't in my position, but being in the studio is a lot of fun because it's just me being able to pour out like all the thoughts that I have and the things that I want to create.
And does it always start? You mentioned the drawing and the doodling before. Do you feel like it always goes in that direction from the drawing to the sculpture, or?
No, because sometimes I'll just have an idea and then I'm like, okay, I got to quickly like write that down. Like, because I want to see it happen one day. And I think if I write it down, it's more likely to happen than not.
And are you still writing poetry?
Not at the moment, no, because I'm trying to read more in order to write. I think it's really important as a writer or someone that's into poetry, you have to be a reader. You have to read a lot. And so I'm reading a lot more, and I'm also opening myself up to workshops. I think it's important to talk to other writers and older writers too. I've been thinking a lot about mentorships and what that would look like for me.
What would it look like for you?
Oh, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out myself. I was talking to someone earlier about that, how like a lot of people my age don't have mentors. And so I think as an artist, as a creative person in general, there is a lot of learning as you go, but then there's no one really around to like set a guideline. So I've been talking a lot about mentorships because I feel like people my age have people under us that we kind of mentor, but we don't have people older than us like helping us the same way.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what kinds of things do you like to read?
Mainly fiction. I'm a big fan of fiction, and I like to read scripts. I've been really into reading. I mainly read a lot of female writers. As of right now, a lot of female writers from post-war. I think she's having a resurgence or something right now. I'm really not the first person to like claim her at the moment. Clarice Lispector, who she was born in the Ukraine, but she was raised in Brazil. I've been reading a lot of her books because her books to me, I love watching films. Her books to me read like I see it in my head and it looks like a movie. Like I wish one of her books, especially The Dry Heart, could be a movie. It's really good. Anna Karina, I'm a big fan of, and I've been reading Gail Jones too. So a lot of the writers that I'm into have these really these really eccentric lives outside of, or what Wikipedia writes anyway. They have these really eccentric lives outside of the books that they write.
They're also the books, they're about very rich inner lives.
Yeah, and I think the writers that I'm into are really like in their heads. They have their a whole different world happening. I feel like a lot of that myself sometimes. Like I'm in my own like universe or something.
And what interests you in reading scripts?
Reading a script?
Yeah.
Well, I would like to write a script one day.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping like if I read scripts, one day I'll write a script because I'll understand the layout of how it looks. Because the scripts that I read, sometimes I can't understand what it's gonna look like visually. And then you get on set and you're like, well, for me, I still don't really have an idea of what it's gonna look like until the editor edits. But yeah.
So is making a feature film something you would like to do, like a long form feature?
Again?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. I don't have to be a main character. I could literally be the woman that's like, he's over there.
Yeah.
I ate that up. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if we should maybe open it up to questions for the audience now. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
I think we have microphones going around. Or maybe we don't. Yeah, there's one microphone over there. But yeah, if you have a question, raise your hand and Yi can get you with a microphone. Yeah, right here.
Should I wait for the microphone? Can you hear me? I can
You don't
hear
have
you.
to, we can hear you.
Great. So, thank you. Great conversation. Talk about your use of bags. I see a lot of imagery involving chains and chain fences. Can you speak to kind of what that signifies in your practice?
I'll just repeat it for people who didn't hear it. The question was about imagery of chains and chain link fences in Diamond's work.
I think because my family is from the West Side, that's how I ended up thinking a lot about gates. Because of those gates that I see a lot on the West Side of Chicago, and my grandma has one of those gates where it just swings any type of way unless you close it. And the chains, I think the chains probably evolved from thinking a lot about, I wanted to make hair pieces, sculptural pieces, but I didn't necessarily have the money to do what I wanted to do in that time. So I used the resources around me, like for real, which was chains, to try to make these hair sculptures that I was interested in, because I was thinking a lot about like hair shows and things like that when it came to like the chains. I think it evolved into like even a deeper meaning than what I intended it to be at first, but I'm glad, because it was really just an imagery that I had that I really wanted to make happen. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Are there other questions from the audience? I think we'll maybe go over here first because, yeah. And then.
Hi, thank you for the talk. I'm at the Poetry Foundation, so I got all excited when I heard that you were a poet. And it almost sounds like you're thinking of the poetry kind of separate from your sculptural work. But I saw Bitch, You Gonna Die as a poem, right? And are you thinking about incorporating more text into your sculptural work? And if not, I want to encourage you to do so.
Oh, thank you. I have a few other pieces besides Bitch You Gonna Die that has that has like where I use words and things like that. I don't separate the two. Sometimes I do, but usually I don't. I have other pieces with words, so thank you.
I think there was a question across over there. Well, I think your sister had a question for you. Yeah.
That's my sister, y'all. Great question, Fatima. I don't have a favorite. I really don't. But I think maybe the piece that I think about a lot maybe is the entryway pieces, because it's the piece that really sticks out to me. I think it's a really strong piece. That's not my favorite, but I do think about that piece a lot. You had a question? Yeah.
I'm curious to know more about your material choices, insofar as I see a lot of different medium and material, silk screen to found materials. Do you go back to something like just the decision process? How does it work for you? Do you hone your skills in one material and then switch to something else, or do you want to go back to some?
No, I go back because, like I mentioned earlier, like the closet pieces, that was actually a piece that I made for a group show. And then I decided to go back and like explore the closets more. I haven't worked with hair in a really long time, but like I'll probably go back to working with hair. Just like poetry, how you allow like a poet to revise a poem, I want to revise some of my art. So I'm open to going back.
Yeah, I guess I'm realizing we didn't talk so much about the hair pieces.
Oh, that's okay. Oh, I made those Hergot dolls because I'm very fascinated with the Amish. And so I was thinking of this idea of what it would have been like if me, my family, and family like mine were similar to the Amish in a way. We had our own language, our own, outside of what the Amish would call the English world. So I started making these Hergot dolls because since I was like 8 or 9, I've been very fascinated with societies that live outside of what people would call the English world or the Western world. I haven't made a Hergot doll in a really long time, but I want to keep making these dolls because I notice I get better at sewing, and also the dolls become more elaborated as each time I go back and make one. But yeah, it started from being from the Midwest and seeing Amish people, Mennonites, and now that I live in New York, I see a lot of Hasidic people and like how they interact next to yeah, how they interact and not interact with people at the same time and keep their traditions and customs.
I feel like we have time for.
So my question, you said something that really sparked something inside of me, and that question is, when you sit with your mundaneness, when you start creating, is that spirit of creation just like an out of body experience for you, or is it like you feel like you are crafting, like you have come up, you've sat with this mundaneness and you have built something? Because I'm studying right now a lot of like what my craft is for me is like suddenly I am overtaken with this thought and I need to get this out. And it felt like you were kind of hitting something. Does that make sense?
It does. It depends. I think it depends, but I think it's important to sit with yourself and be comfortable with yourself. And I think me and you, what we're talking about right now is, when I say sitting with yourself, I mean really sitting with yourself. It's like not being on your phone. It's like you can read a book, do something, touch some grass. The ideas of like that mundaneness, and like you said, I think you know what it is already. Sometimes it does feel like something outside of you is talking through you. And other times, yeah, you're crafting it, you're making it happen. I think it can be, two things can be true at once.
I wanted to ask what kind of influence music plays in your work or life. I saw online that your dad is Stingily, and just like being involved, I guess maybe in like the house scene or this community that's like, I guess, kind of very spiritual maybe, or like communal, like whether that's had an influence on your practice.
I think it has, maybe not directly, but I do think that idea, like you said, spiritual or communal, being a part of a scene has influenced my work, because you need, I was a part of a music scene when I was in Chicago. I think just by being like around, I wasn't necessarily trying to do anything. I was just hanging around. And I think having friends within those scenes actually helped me be the artist that I am now. I had people encouraging me or like telling me the possibilities of what I could do. I think music has played a huge role in my career because I was a part of music scenes, and I think maybe my father is a part of a music scene where, yeah, it's very communal, and house music was created out of, yeah, community. So I think from him, I learned that you need people and you need help to some certain degree. And I think music scenes are really good places to find people that want to help you. They're good scenes to network in. So I do think music has influenced me a lot. I listen to it all the time, and I used to see live shows a lot, and that's how I met a lot of my friends when I was younger as well.
So that, I was not going to ask this question, but your question made me think of mine again, and that is your interest in mentorship. That really resonated with me, this idea that when you're growing up, you have all these mentors, right, that can help you along the way. It's normal to have a mentoring relationship. And then you get to a certain point in your career, and you don't really have mentors necessarily. And I think the music scene is so different in the sense that it's more communal. And I just wonder if you can speak to that a little bit. Does that make sense at all?
That the music scene is more communal?
Yeah. And
Yeah, because you can't make music by yourself. You can, but then you want people to listen to it, or you want people to interact to it or dance to it. So it has to be. Yeah, like I think so, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And
yeah.
I think that it's naturally more of a mentor.
Yeah, I think it's. I can't speak because I'm not a musician like that, but it does seem like it's maybe easier to find an older musician that wants to kind of help you out or see you like thriving even more than them than it is like in different scenes. Yeah.
I liked the idea that you said that people were encouraging you to
Yeah.
find what you wanted to do next and pushing you along.
Yeah. I don't think, like you said, when you hit a certain point in your career, sometimes you don't have that.
Hello. I got handed the mic, so I'm just going to ask my question.
I hear you. I can't see you.
Hey.
Hey.
Thank you again. I just wanted to ask, in your artistic practice, how do you go about like conceiving and creating installation pieces like through such like a large scale?
For me, it's looking at the space first. Like usually getting asked to do the show, and then I have to check out the space and see what I can do with the space. That's how I normally do it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we have time for one last question, maybe, if anybody wants to take us home.
What you? I was like, Jack. Hey, my next project. That's a great question. I do know what's going on, but sometimes I don't. Like off the top of my head, if you ask me what I'm doing, I'm like, I don't know. But then if someone's next to me, they'll be like, you have a show coming up. You have this happening. I think that's what's going on. There are some things coming up, but I just can't. I don't know. I have a talk coming up soon, though. So if anyone's in New York, come to another one. Yeah.
Well, thanks. Thanks, Diamond. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. No, but seriously, though, thank you for coming because it's crazy. I'm from Chicago. This is a big deal for me. So thank you.